think we might just have one or two new joiners, so to speak. So just to introduce myself, I'm Peter Ward, Chief Executive of the UK Warehousing Association, and it's my pleasure to be moderating this track today here at IRX, and particularly this next session where we're going to delve into a little bit more detail with this great panel of experts regarding what kind of customer experience and that final mile delivery might look like in 3 to 5 years. In fact, when the organisers put the brief together for this session, they said, what will it look like in 2020? And it sort of occurred to me, that's probably only 18 months away. It's not, that 2020 date is not too distant out there. So we'll sort of try and take a 3 to 5 year horizon. We've got about 45 minutes. The way we're going to run this is I'm just going to quickly introduce the panel, and then they'll put a bit more meat on the bones in terms of their day job and why they're here and what they're going to share with you. We'll have a sort of bit of a discussion up on the stage here, and then throw it open to the floor. So this is your event, this is your conference. The organisers have been great to get these people here. Please make use, and let's see if we can really optimise the opportunity for some real knowledge transfer here. So in sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 order at the far end, we have Sam James, who is a Logistics Development Manager for Screwfix, looking at their omni-channel models and processes and so on. And then we have Tim, no we don't, we have Robert Kulovic, and I'm just going to turn up to my notes to make sure that I don't mess up his title, because it's probably the most important thing that he has. He is actually the Chief Operating Officer of Everything5pounds.com. So we've already got a bit of inflation in the room, because I can remember kind of Poundland and Pound Stretcher, and now we've got Everything £5. That's an interesting one. Then we come to Tim Stevens, who is Operations and Logistics Manager, Findmeagift.com. And last, on my immediate right here, your left, last but by no means least, welcome back to Caroline from Deliveroo. Who we heard from in the last session, and we'll probably pick up some of Caroline's points. So let's crack on. So starting at the far end then, Sam, as I think a well-known TV personality used to say, what's your name, where'd you come from? What's your day job, and what are you going to share with us, Sam?
So Sam James from Screwfix, hopefully you've heard of us. So omnichannel retailer in the UK, also shipping into Europe. Got about just over 550 stores now. We open typically one a week, so we can never quite remember the number of stores we've got, but it's somewhere around that. And shipping about 140,000 parcels a week into the UK on a next day delivery basis. Also, same day delivery into the M25 at the moment. So, yeah, busy times. In terms of my role, looking after the home delivery fulfilment centre up in Stoke. And then working with the business to develop new propositions to offer our customers for seeing us forward into the future.
Robert?
Hi everyone, my name is Robert Kulovic. I work for a pure play retailer called Everything5pounds.com. And in essence, yes, everything is £5, and it is fast fashion. Our biggest obstacle usually when going up to customers is convincing them that we sell quality product. That's also a value product, and the secret to it is we don't make anything. We source our goods from high street retailers and debrand it and kind of like recycle back to the market. So whether it's a high street retailer or a boutique brand or some European brand, we offer it back. And we've got a large following, mostly grow through word of mouth. And in terms of my role, I've been involved with Everything5pounds.com from the very early days. And there isn't this thing that I don't have to do, whether it's a bust seal on a loo, or defending intellectual property rights, and also being a mom to 250 guys in a warehouse, guys and girls. So yes, give us a chance and have a look.
Thanks, Robert. Can you hear okay at the back? Can we get a bit more volume? Because it may just be because I'm behind the speakers here, but I'm struggling to hear, and I just wondered if you're okay at the back there. Do you need a bit more volume? Yeah, a bit more volume, guys. Come to you, Tim.
Yep, okay. Yeah, well, I'm Tim Stevens from Findmeagift.com. I've been with the company just 6 months, originally from a sort of supply background, so it's a bit of a new venture for me. Spent the last 6 months learning a lot about e-retail and how we operate. And we have one DC in Warwickshire that we distribute to the whole world from. Last year we distributed just short of 500,000 orders from our DC, which was a bit of a record for us. We had a record year last year, which was great for us. We're hoping to emulate that this year, but we're on track so far. So anything sort of gift related, we try and stock and sell. We also do a lot of personalisation as well. So we do a lot of posters, personalised frames, glasses, cups, all those kind of things that you see on the market. We do. And we're looking to expand that side of the business a lot more to get more personal. But we're still keeping the kind of fun and funky brand that we have and we've developed over the years.
And Caroline, there may be one or two that just joined for this session that didn't have the experience and pleasure of listening to you half an hour ago. Quick intro.
Sure. So I'm Caroline Hazelhurst. I run operations for a company called Deliveroo. So we partner with local restaurants and deliver food to customers on their behalf. I joined about 3 years ago. The business is now about 5 years old, but 3 years ago is when we started all of the expansion outside London. So at that time we were in one city. We're now in nearly 200 cities across 12 countries. To give you an idea of scale, we're now a $2 billion business, which surprises some people who still think we're a very early stage startup. We deliver about 200,000 orders a day with a fleet of 30,000 riders.
Thank you. So we've got sort of a cross-section of specialists here, but all involved in this final mile delivery in some kind. So the first question to get us going, if we take this sort of 3 to 5 year view, what do we think kind of state of the art is going to look like? My sense is that this whole thing is just moving so fast at the moment. Many of us in the industry are just sort of evolving, almost making it up as we go along to meet, today's or yesterday's demands. But if we just take that more sort of futuristic view, what do we think it's going to look like? And particularly, what do people in the audience need to start thinking about to prepare for this next stage of development? Sam, let's start at the far end again.
So I think if I could tell you what it's going to be like in 5 years, I'd be the richest person in the room. And I don't think
here doing this, would we?
I wouldn't be. So I'm not sure any of us can answer that, but I think what we do know is there's going to be an absolute varied wealth of solutions out there. Some of which will be the kind of sexy drone things that that we hear people talking about, but more realistically than that, it's going to be about just more delivery services in the more traditional sense. I think for retailers to get ready for something when we don't know what we're heading for is actually quite difficult. So I don't think any of us can afford to pin our preparation onto one of those solutions. So I think as retailers, it's our job to make sure we've got really robust system platforms in order management, in carrier management, and those type of things that allows us to tap into whatever the answer might be in the end of the last mile. But we have to be dynamic enough to have the systems in the middle, in the core, that can be ready to link into whatever someone cleverer than me dreams up.
And do you think that omni-channel model is here to stay? And what sort of balance do you see between click and collect and home delivery? We've heard varying opinions in this room this morning. What's your view? Is it going to be a bit of everything, or is something going to come and outweigh the other, do you think?
I think it very much depends on your market. And I don't think there is one answer. So for our customer who's typically a tradesman, so they might be a white van man kind of working at your house, they're going to have a very different requirement to, say, the Deliveroo customer or to a fashion customer. So I think by industry, the answer is going to be quite different. For us, what we hear from our customers is it's all about convenience. So we're helping them to facilitate their businesses. So the important thing for our customers, we get it, as for all, I guess, but is they get it there quickly, right, and first time. I don't think they're overly concerned about how it arrives to them, whether it's a drone or whether it's a robot or whether it's a bloke on a bike. I don't think they care. All they care about is it arrives there, on time, it's in one piece, and it doesn't cost them the earth to do it.
Okay. Robert?
Yes, I fully agree. I think whatever you do, whatever you sell, you're responsible for the contract that you've got with your customer. So regardless of however it gets there, because in the end, we are now depositing parcels in the boots of cars, and drones are being trained and whatnot. Maybe someone will just turn the particles into electric current and pass it on. Doesn't matter. A customer needs to be in control. So you do need to inform them about every stage, and you need to keep up your word, because you do own your logistic operation, regardless whether you outsource it or not. Passing the customer off to the carrier to sort out the delivery problem is the last thing I think we want to do as retailers. So just be honest and then get it right first time.
And we heard earlier a couple of times about this, the brand loyalty being really important and the touch point. Is that important in your business in terms of who the customer is actually interfacing with on the doorstep?
So right, apparently loyalty is dead. If you want loyalty, you buy a dog, because whoever has the best offer is going to win. It's about how you make the customer feel, and buying should be a reward for them, and as a result, they should end up with what they wanted to get, and this should drive retention. So them being assured of the outcome will bring them back instead of I don't know. See, we cannot judge loyalty based on brand, because at Everything5pounds.com stock is very dynamic. It sells
Perhaps
very
loyalty
fast.
is the wrong word, but more integrity. But let's come back to that.
Yeah.
Tim, what are your delivery models then?
Well, for us, we have a big challenge having one DC. So looking at the future, and a lot of people are talking about same-day delivery. Thank you very much, because they proved it can be done. But it's a case that it's really, for a company like us, we have to take a decision what we're going to offer out for those kind of deliveries, what our customers really need. So it's a lot of market research, it's a lot of understanding what our customers want based on what they buy from us. And how urgent that is.
Is it predominantly home delivery that you're...
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
No click and collect in your model, so...
There's no click and collect in our model yet, but it's something that we're working on now with a couple of suppliers to be able to achieve that.
So looking at this sort of 3 to 5 year view, that's something that you think you've got to ramp up for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's something that we're talking about now to develop and try and be one of the first retailers with a single DC online that can have a click and collect service that works next day. Yeah. For us to do same day would be very, very expensive, because the infrastructure we'd have to invest in would be massive. We'd have to spread our stock thinly around DCs across the country, or come up with another solution of being able to drive up motorways a lot quicker than you should. But it's a case that I think you need to understand what product offering you need to supply to that as well, because for me, I think everything that we supply is not going to be in demand same day or even next day. 80% of our deliveries still at the moment are within 3 to 5 days. So it's still that sort of market for us, but that's because we do a lot of personalisation, so therefore we have a lot of preparation time to personalise that gift. There's always the panic buys, and there's always the people that will pay for the additional presents when they've forgotten someone's birthday or anniversary, etc. So it's one of those things that I think we've got to be very careful what we put forward in our product offering. And I think for us to be sensible, we're looking at more personalisation, so it gives us more time to actually get the product distributed.
Perhaps come back to that point, speed versus certainty, if you like, in a moment. Caroline, you're pretty much a single channel, aren't you? Forgive me on this side of the room. You probably can't see past the lectern here. But single channel, do you see any changes to that in Deliveroo going forward?
No, I don't. I think for us, if we take the 3 to 5 year view, it's really, really simple. We think that customers are going to want more stuff delivered faster at a lower price point. So what we're building for is being able to understand what customers want, being able to scale in order to fulfill that demand, and remaining as agile as possible for as long as possible, because consumer demands constantly change. In 1 minute you're delivering Nando's in 30 minutes, customers are delighted. Well, guess what? In 3 months, that's old news, and they want to get Nando's and X and Y and Z delivered within 25 minutes or 20 minutes. And what we believe is that those things become the new normal and what you need to do to compete. And I think you get to the stage where actually you need to be able to deliver on price, selection and service and continue driving towards each one of those things in the future. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. Obviously, the things that go behind it, the innovations and the technology behind it, are very, very complicated, but that's really where we're looking at.
But clearly within your model, speed is an important factor, right? So how do you in Deliveroo balance up between sort of driving for this speedy delivery and trying to drive down those delivery times just against reliability and certainty?
It's not really a trade-off for us. We believe that it's as important as a customer to get the food quickly as it is for a customer to know when the food is going to arrive. Luckily for us, we have real-time tracking that means that, if we communicate to a customer food's going to be there in 30 minutes and something goes a bit wrong, that in real time that customer will know that it's going to be 35 minutes. But we try not to trade those two things off because we believe they're both very important from a customer perspective, or at least to offer the faster delivery. You might have some restaurants that might take 45 minutes to deliver from, but as long as you're offering the customer something fast for that customer that wants it, then you can compete in that space.
And just very quickly, picking up the one point, can I actually get Nando's, Chinese and Indian delivered by the same rider?
No, it'll be different riders.
It'll be okay. So it's got to kind of coincide if we want to eat together, but eat a different menu choice.
Yes, unless you're ordering from an Edition site, which is one of our sites with multiple kitchens, and in that scenario, you might be able to have a rider deliver different cuisines or different restaurants.
So it's kind of going omni-channel a little bit.
A bit.
So Tim, speed or reliability?
For me, reliability first, and then speed you can build on that afterwards. I think, again, it comes down to what product you're offering and what market you're in. Obviously, with you guys, it's all about speed. It's all about making sure it's there. But for us, it's about making sure that we get someone's gift there when they need it, but also in the right shape. So it's about quality as well.
Yeah, same question to you then, Robert.
I agree with Tim. It's a reliability, yeah, definitely. Speed needs to be offered, as Caroline said, but not everyone needs it. Not everyone cares. Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, reliability every time. I don't think anyone's going to thank you for doing a rubbish job quickly. You need to be able to make sure your customers know that they're going to get what they've ordered exactly when they think they're going to get it.
So before we sort of come on to the returns bit, what madness have you seen in what's evolved so far that might just come out of some of these models in this 3 to 5 year horizon? Because we've been talking about speed. It's largely been a race to the bottom, hasn't it? I mean, it's just been the consumer expectation has been set around this sort of next day, next hour. And the question we have to ask ourselves is how much of that is actually necessary. Very different in the Deliveroo model to maybe what you're doing in the Screwfix model. But
And I think our customers have demonstrated that speed is not always, having sort of stuff delivered quickly is not always what they want. So we started as a purely next day delivery business with no stores. We were doing next day delivery 20 years ago before most other retailers were doing it. But our customers said, actually, we don't want things next day. That's not convenient. We want to be able to drive and pick things up when we're on our way to our jobs. So in the reverse of most retailers, we then open stores, which is the exact opposite to where most retailers have worked. So I think, again, it depends on your customer base and really understanding what your customers want. Because for my trade customers, that's very different to a fashion customer, to a Deliveroo customer. So I think everybody can get quite obsessed with they're doing it quickly and they're doing this, so we must do it. But it's only if your customers need it or want it that you need to do it.
And have you, in your role within Screwfix, have you seen any kind of madness in the business that actually is starting to drop out a little bit now?
There's plenty of madness in the business, but I don't...
Well, in terms of, what we've been trying to achieve in logistics and in this final mile delivery cycle.
I think we're quite good at taking a measured approach to things. So we haven't jumped on the bandwagon, too much and got too far down the road with anything crazy. We're constantly asking the customers what they want, and if the customers say they want it, then we'll deliver it for the customers. We're not really into kind of, really chasing after being the first with something new that actually nobody wants. So no, I don't think the craziness has really hit us yet, at least.
No, okay. Robert, what would your view be on the madness and the crazy stuff that we've been doing?
Just the fact that you can doesn't mean that you should.
I agree.
It just confuses people. I think simplicity is best, and exactly, customers will ask for it. We are quite fortunate in our business. We do offer value, and we kind of get away with murder on most occasions. But yes, I don't know what I was going to say next.
Don't worry, Tim.
There's no murders, by the way. That was just a phrase. Yeah.
For us, it's. Can you hear me? Because I think I really can now. For us, it's really, you've got to take a measured response to everybody else's reaction. You can't have the knee-jerk reaction to it. I think you've got to really understand what your business needs to do to compete with your competitors, and not necessarily go down that route where, like you say, you're sort of reacting to what everybody else is doing. It might not suit our model. It might not suit what we do. And it is certainly that you can watch the madness go on and see what comes from it to take a more measured response. And I think that's the best approach.
We probably couldn't have a session like this without mentioning returns. So, Caroline, do you have returns in your business model?
Probably not relevant to us, no.
You don't take anything back at all?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay. So, Tim, how are you dealing with returns in your business?
Returns isn't a massive issue for us, and that's one thing when I joined the company I was quite surprised to see. Traditionally, sort of years ago rather, I worked for a white goods manufacturer, and I specifically worked within returns for the UK and saw a sort of 10-12% returns rate. Joining Findmeagift, I found a sort of 2.5-3% returns rate, which I was really surprised about, but it's down to the product that we sell. So the returns rate is very low, so it's very manageable for us. But it's very mindful as well that we have to make sure that we get, like we were saying, the preparation and the delivery right and get it right first time. So we spend a lot of time and effort on making sure that descriptions are correct and we list the product correctly, it's all priced correctly, it's packed and sent the way it should be. So we take a lot of time and effort to make sure that we get the fundamental things right so we can keep our returns low. But it is an issue to look at the reverse logistics of it and the condition that product come back. So it's what we find is from our returns, only about 50% of it can be put back into stock. So we're working on that. We
You've
carry
got to
this
get
at
it
the minute.
right first time.
Yep.
That's a big bite into your net margin if
Yep.
you start getting that
Absolutely.
wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Robert, if everything's £5, there's not much room for returns in your business model, is there?
Not at all. Every return basically ruins the the spreadsheet, and for this reason, we physically touch every item we sell, and there's 8 million of them a year. But we just make sure that the measurements are correct. We say what model wears, what model, what size is the model that models the item. And our returns are similar, around 2.5–3% maybe, but also I think no one really bothers queuing up at the post office for half an hour to return £5 item. They just pass it on to a friend and call it a gift, right? Happy birthday, honey. I don't know that for sure, but come on. Yes, although that's also the culture in UK. Look at Germany; it's a mail order catalog society, and the returns can be up to 60%. I don't think we would exist in Germany with this sort of returns figures.
Okay, and Sam, Screwfix returns.
So yeah,
Big issue, or
it's not a big issue. I guess I don't think it's any bigger than for anyone else. But I think the thing we need to be mindful of when we're thinking about our future delivery strategies is we can get a bit hung up on kind of speed of delivery and convenient delivery, and then you sit in too many meetings where everyone's getting excited about that, and you say, "Oh, what about returns?" And everyone goes, "Oh God, that's a bit difficult. We'll talk about that later," and it never gets talked about. I think if you're going to be developing your delivery strategy, you've got to do that hand in hand with your return strategy, because your customer doesn't want to get like a super sexy, convenient delivery and think, "Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, but I bought the wrong thing, and now I want to send it back." And actually, that's really difficult, and the customer experience is completely different to my delivery experience. So I think as retailers, when we're thinking about what we do with delivery, you've got to put as much thought into how your returns are going to work too.
Yeah, I understand it's much more sort of pervasive in the fashion business, and we don't have a real representative of the fashion business here, but some scary stories. So just another question to the panel then. All of this online e-commerce activity, are we making money at it? Is it profitable? Is it sustainable? Sam, kick off on that one. I mean,
So yes, I
your
think
traditional retail. I mean, if we look at it in the context of Screwfix, part of the Kingfisher Group, and so on, traditional retailer been around for many years, have come from a model where the customer went into a store, walked around, selected the product, picked it up, took it to a till, put it in a bag, and took it home. Now you're doing most of that for the customer. So how is that transformation affecting the overall net margin in the business if this is sort of growing to be, what, 25% of your business? Well, of the group business?
so. Yeah, I mean, if you take the UK operating companies for Kingfisher, both B&Q and Screwfix came from totally different places. You've got big box stores from B&Q who are getting into the kind of omni-channel fulfillment, and then the reverse is true for Screwfix, where we've gone kind of in the other direction from omni-channel to kind of small box. But the customers in both markets, while they're different, are absolutely both demanding more online, and we can't. And if we don't react to that, then we'll go the same way as some of the retailers we've seen in recent weeks. Absolutely, it's profitable. I think the challenge with the big box stores is that they need to make better use of that space to react better to the e-com growth, because I think that's where they could land themselves in some trouble, and not just Kingfisher retailers, but any retailer of that shape. But yeah, it's profitable. But and I think for the likes of the big box opcos that we have in the UK and in France, etc., they will get left behind if they don't put more time and energy into developing the e-com strategy.
Yeah.
And absolutely, there's money in it.
Yeah. You making money, Robert? £5?
Oh, loads of money, absolutely. So I definitely think that e-commerce is more viable than the brick and mortar, where you've got so many elements out of your control, unless you're purchasing like Deliveroo does and gets quotes, for a lot of stores at once. The second point is, I don't think you're supposed to make money if you're a corporation. You're supposed to grow, right, and future-proof. Or if you're a startup. So I think we kind of can class ourselves as either quite comfortably, we are 7 years young, but we also are quite big. We are heavily investing into future-proofing the business, so we are constantly trying to think, what's the new technology, what's the front end supposed to do, the back end, what do we need to plug into it. So yes, on paper, there's profit, there's much better profit than brick and mortar, but then what you do with it, I think your CFO can then tell you off or not. Yeah.
Tim, are you making some good money at this?
Yeah, we're doing okay, to be fair. That's the one thing. I mean, growth in e-business has been huge, and Findmeagift last year grew 27%. It's a massive amount of growth. The issue is making sure you make the investment to keep up with that in the infrastructure, so you can keep up with that kind of growth. And I think that's where you need to be careful. And that's one area that I think we look at very closely to make sure that we have that infrastructure and that the funds ring-fenced and accrued so we can ensure we grow. And this year so far, we've seen just under 17% growth already. So it's another good year for Findmeagift. And we will try and keep fresh, etc., and making sure we have the product sourced from the right place at the right price to make a profit.
Caroline, you shared some pretty impressive numbers with us earlier in terms of your investment and raising funds to fund the exponential growth of Deliveroo. Are those investors getting some payback, or when's that expected, do you think?
Yeah, a couple of points there. So the first point to note is we're still obsessed with growth. That's the most important thing. In some of our more mature markets, yes, we're at profitability or close to profitability. In other markets, there are things that we could do if we chose to slow down a little bit on growth. So from an investor perspective, yes, most, if not all of them, have seen breakout returns, so should hopefully be pretty happy there. The thing about our business is that it doesn't work unless, leaving aside us, the company and the investors are making money, but unless restaurants and riders are making money. And, we've been in a position for quite some time now where restaurants have added, 20 or 30% incremental sales with no incremental fixed costs, and where riders are earning a very good income with Deliveroo, earning, £9.50 an hour on average across the UK. So yes, there's money to be made here. I mentioned earlier that over the next kind of year or so, we think we're going to be adding 1.5 billion to the UK economy. So yeah, generally we're in a pretty good place.
Good. Right, floor. Must be some questions coming from this learned audience out here. Anyone just again struggling in the lights? We've got one down at the front here, please. So we'll do the same again. What's your name and where'd you come from?
James Moore from InPost. Really simple question, because I think we can get quite bogged down in being companies. What delivery service do you guys prefer to use, and what delivery service would you guys prefer to see?
Let's go around start with Sam again.
Delivery services. So I guess I'm a bit of a delivery geek. So if I see a delivery service offered, I'll kind of give it a go to try it out. But mostly for me, I get stuff to home. I'm lucky I live in the middle of nowhere, so all of my drivers know to kind of stick it in the log store and it's always there when I get home. Not everyone's that fortunate though. But for me, that's the most handy for sure. And what would I like to see, did you? Yeah. Wow. If I could have anything, I'd like to see some of the really kind of sort of techie, inspirational things, like the drones, like the robots, but who wouldn't? That's quite an exciting world. I don't necessarily think that's realistic. I think more realistic is making, making more use of kind of the kind of greener initiatives. So I think whether we choose to do that or are forced to do that one way or another, that's going to happen. So a lot more use of electric vehicles, a lot more use of bikes. I think that will happen one way or another, and probably before some of the more technological solutions do.
And what would be the sort of go, no-go areas following up on that question? You're not going to let anybody into your house, are you? There are certain delivery companies now that say, well, give us the keys and we'll go in and we'll do this, that and the other. You're going to let anybody into the privacy of your own home, or is it always going to be this over-the-door stop threshold?
For me, I don't have a need for it. Would I? I don't know if I'd be comfortable with it yet. I think it's quite new. It's quite a new thing. I'm not sure that I'm really comfortable to allow that to happen. I think the car boot delivery is very interesting. So I know there's some guys here in the room who I've been chatting to about it, and I think maybe that's more palatable for people than maybe entering your property, although your car is still quite an emotional thing that you may not want tampered with. For me, I can see that's being something that our trade customer may like. However, so can we deliver consumables to the back of their van, for example? That's something that's probably more appealing going forward.
And what about the sort of lock-up box? We heard a lot of that 2 or 3 years ago. The buy box kind of model, but I don't know whether it's because of the growth of the collect pluses and so on. Any views on that, Robert and Tim, in terms of, is that here to stay?
I do like them, and it's my preferred choice because I'm always on the move. I'm never at home. Occasionally, I'm not at work, and I also don't want to share what I buy. It always comes in brown, unmarked packaging. So anyway, but yes, click and collect is the most convenient. Going forward, I would really like to see something that offers me the visibility and control. So I might ask you to deliver to this particular lockup box, but now I changed my plans and I really want it elsewhere in the vicinity, and I would expect the courier to go out of his way. And I also read up somewhere that blockchain can be utilized in offering visibility to each and every party. Don't throw tomatoes for mentioning blockchain, because it's almost like mentioning Amazon on a conference. So,
Tim, where do you see this sort of choice of delivery going? Let's come back to the sort of 3-5 year horizon, but picking up the question there.
Yeah, for us, I think it's the convenience of click and collect that I think is an area that we need to really get into. I think the day that same day delivery comes in will be for us will be quite expensive, and I think it will be quite something that we will struggle to compete with, to be honest, with our current infrastructure. But to answer your question as well, it's really a case that I think what we'd like to see is the ability to be able to do a click and collect service from one DC, so a kind of next day kind of thing. And sort of drop boxes does allow us to do that. We're quite price restrictive on that at the moment. We're finding that still quite expensive. So with the testing that we've done so far, our customers don't want to pay that kind of value. But again, our order basket average is about 27 quid. And from what we've seen from our customer testing is they want to pay sort of 10-15% on delivery. And that's the kind of level that they're at. And that doesn't appeal to us yet because we can't get the price down. As soon as we can get the price down with partnering with somebody, however it happens, then it's a viable option for us.
Caroline, what's the next extension of the Deliveroo service? You're going to come in and sort of set the table for me and maybe come back and do the washing up as well afterwards?
Not yet. I think we're going the other way.
The millennials will be open to that though, won't they? More so than my grey-haired generation.
They'll probably be more open to letting someone into their home. I'm not sure that that's something you'll see on the food delivery side of things before you see on the retail side of things. But yes, as I said earlier, we're going the other way in terms of innovation. So we want to get more accurate about delivery addresses. We want to ensure that riders get it right first time. We want to make sure that we're optimizing things on the kitchen side so that we can deliver the food faster, that sort of thing.
Okay, another question from the floor? Yep, sorry, got my back to you, I do apologise.
Hello, my name is Kareem from Beirut, Lebanon. My question is actually for Caroline. But mainly for me, Deliveroo is a logistics company more than a food delivery but more than the food side. Would you expand and go into any other hyper-local deliveries that could probably make more money for your drivers at a later stage? Let's say from a flower shop or from a local bakery. Well, bakery is within, but let's say from a local flower shop, because you already have the infrastructure.
So, to put it very bluntly, no, we wouldn't. We want to be the definitive food company. And I wouldn't agree with your statement necessarily that that would make more money for our riders. The thing that is very important in order for riders to make more money is having order volume density. So the more we grow, the higher customer frequency gets, the more efficient we are, the more deliveries a rider can do every hour and can make more money for that hour. So adding incremental bits and pieces like delivering flowers or delivering iPads, we believe is not the right thing for our business.
Let's pick up that thought though for the rest of the panel. Collaboration across other companies, other collaborating partners. Tim, is that something that you'd be open to?
Absolutely be open to it. I mean, anything that could improve our service to the end user would be worthwhile. And again, it depends who you collaborate with, whether there's some kudos in that Excel.
Yes, I fully agree. We should utilize the technology if there's a need for it. We've got the visibility of the device movements, and why not go a step further and offer it to the public, so sort of like buddy deliveries. I'm on my way here. I might just stop, pick up something for myself and someone else in my neighborhood. I think this kind of like social movements will exist in future, according to my crystal ball.
Sam, any potential for utilising your network? This was a question actually that came this morning to Nick Blunt from Sainsbury's Argos. You know, is when they've really perfected this, you know, asset optimization and got their network absolutely configured to the optimal point, is it something then that could be rolled out to third parties? They could effectively become a 3PL. Could you do that within the Screwfix model?
We've talked about, you know, would we want to collaborate with another retailer so they could utilise our store infrastructure to help do their click and collect, for example. And I think it's okay as long as who you partner with is really complementary. So if we take our customer base, for example, would our trade customer who wants to be in and out really quickly to pick up their things for a job wants to be queuing up behind, you know, some sort of 20-year-olds ordering dresses off the internet, you know, and causing queues while they go and pick their product up? Probably not. We would just end up alienating our own customers. So I think it absolutely could work for us, but we would absolutely have to choose the partner very, very carefully.
Okay. Anything else another question from the floor? We've got one over there, please, and then one down at the front after that, and we're probably getting towards time. While you get the microphone over there, not to answer now, just to have a think about, I'm going to ask you about sort of today's news on Cambridge Analytics and the whole Facebook use of this sort of data that we're using to perfect our business models. But let's take a question from the floor there. Sorry, I can't see you back.
My name's David Shaw from Paragon Software Systems. What does the panel think about dynamic pricing for delivery slots?
Personally, I think it's the way forward. I think that it's reasonable for customers to pay less if it's costing you less and costing your couriers less. And I think it's a good way to encourage collaboration and, you know, more deliveries per route as well. So again, as part of the challenges we're seeing around the number of vehicles on the road facilitating deliveries, particularly with the rise of instant delivery, I think absolutely it lends itself to sort of you know, more stepped charging as a way of encouraging sort of delivery collaboration.
Yes, couriers are going to hate it, but competition is very often one of the main things driving progress. And why not? It will self-regulate. If someone overshoots the point and sells the delivery slot too cheaply, they'll pay dearly in the near future. So I believe it's a good way to go. As a retailer, I would love to see that. I wouldn't have to do it myself to my couriers, beat them off each other. Just let the software do it. Yes.
Yeah, again, I agree. You know, there's not a great deal more I can add to that point. You could agree with the points you've made, to be honest.
Do you have any variable pricing in your model?
Not yet. It's something that we're thinking about this year on the consumer side. We're a very, very peaky business. Everyone orders Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, you know, between 2 hours. We're also looking at dynamic fees on the rider side. So we believe that if a rider is doing a longer distance or a more difficult order for whatever reason, or even a higher value order, that they should get remunerated for that in the right way. So we're looking at it on both sides.
Thank you. And I think we've got time for one more. This gentleman had his hand up a while ago at the front here.
Adam Coombs from Waterstone's IT and business consultancy. It's a similar question to the one that's just been asked, but around the pricing for standard delivery, do you think this should be charged as a separate element for customers, or do you think this should be included in with the price of the actual product?
Just made more visible, you mean?
Yes.
Delivery.
So is it broken down as to here's delivery, here's the price, or should it just be the price?
Quickly round the.
I think it has to be transparent as a separate item.
Yeah, I agree. We do that now. You know, our pricing is very clear. We have our product price and we have our delivery charges completely separate.
Same, delivery is not free, and customers do realize it. So hiding it in a product kind of like erodes the margins and affects the honesty.
Yeah, share the view of these guys. Absolute transparency.
Okay, just to round off then, and we'll have to sort of keep it fairly brief, but I'm just interested on the view of the panel about the news that's sort of broken really, or the wake-up call, I guess, that we've all kind of been given over the last 24 hours as a result of this Cambridge Analytics and the whole Facebook issue. I mean, Caroline, you mentioned several times in your presentation how the data and the algorithms that you've created to understand the customer is really what's driving your business. And I guess that's really the pillar on which most of this evolving e-commerce business is based. So is this just going to be a wake-up call, or do you see this being a slightly bigger threat in terms of something coming down the track in terms of perhaps we've seen sort of GDPR coming. What else might be coming in this 3 to 5 year horizon in terms of regulating how we use customer data? Do you want to kick off on that, Caroline?
Sure. So I think it's a much wider point than just the delivery space. Understanding the impact of machine learning and AI on how we interact with business. There are so many huge questions around that. I think from our perspective, utilizing that data is so important for driving the business. But what we need to be cognizant of and what we need to ensure that we are doing is protecting our customers, riders and restaurants, and ensuring that there's the right level of privacy and regulation around it. So we welcome more of that.
Yeah, and I'd agree. I mean, I think going through the process of when you mentioned GDPR, we've just recently done our data mapping to see where we've held data. And it's surprising where you actually do have data. And so we've learned a lot about protecting our customers' data and, again, all of the analytics that we get from different sources, making sure that they're secure and safe. And I think that's the key. To be found out the way they have, I think is a big scandal, but I think there's a lot more of that going on than people realise, and there's more to come, I think, in that field. But I think as companies, we have a responsibility to our customers to make sure that we keep their data safe and it's used in a right and proper way.
So yes, I think it should be regulated, but I also don't think that anyone minds their data being processed or even exploited. I think the bigger issue is whether we look or read between the lines and spot the, I hate to use it, but fake news in terms of like the rigging scandal and whatnot. So who knows? Regulation, yes. Do we mind it? Probably not. And yeah, it's...
Sam, closing comment on that one?
I think for our customers, having their data gives them so many benefits because we can offer them, services, goods, offers that can only benefit them. But I think as a retailer, we've got a responsibility to make sure we're very clear with our customers what we're going to use their data for, and make sure that they've got absolute trust in us that we're not going to do anything with it that they wouldn't like. So if regulation helps us do that, then absolutely for it.
Great, thanks. Look, we could have rolled on for at least another half an hour, but we are a few minutes over. We'll park it there. These guys, I think, are going to be around at the back there to take any more questions. Please join me in thanking our panel in the usual way. Thank you very much indeed.